Today, we'll be looking at a sci-fi action fantasy called Seven Sins of the Reunion. Haruto Amo leads his 6-member guild consisting of elementary school friends called Subaru on a quest in the MMORPG game Union. When encountering the dungeon boss, Asahi Kuga is killed in the game protecting Haruto. Asahi subsequently dies from heart failure in the real world, resulting in the game being shut down. 6 years later, the game is relaunched, now called Reunion, with only invited players allowed to play the game. Haruto is one of the invited players, and after clearing a dungeon, he is surprised to find Asahi sleeping inside a treasure chest. Having a conversation with Asahi, Haruto realizes that Asahi still thinks it is the day of the failed quest 6 years ago, and finds out she cannot log out of the game. A rival guild from the original game attacks Haruto, and she activates her sense that allows Haruto to predict his opponent's movements to beat him, as while Haruto doesn't have his, Asahi still has hers. Former Subaru guild member Takanori Mikado arrives with his new guild Illuminati to defeat the guild. Sometime after logging out, Satsuki Usui comes over to visit Haruto and tells him he needs to face the past as he had been running away from it. Back in the game, Haruto and Satsuki meet in-game and journey together. Haruto then goes out to a cave and meets Alicia, who appears to know about Asahi and warns Haruto that he is being targeted. Out of jealousy, Satsuki asks Asahi to stay away from Haruto after telling her what kind of person he had become, and the ensuing argument leads Haruto to log out. Satsuki visits him to remind her of the promise he made 6 years ago the Subaru members exchanged rings. Back in the game, Haruto and Asahi go on an adventure together to gather materials for a ring that Haruto gives to Asahi, and Satsuki has one made for herself. The three venture into the dungeon where they had their final quest searching for answers regarding Asahi, and encounter the dungeon boss that killed Asahi, summoned by Alicia. After struggling, Haruto remembers the promise to Asahi to protect each other, and his sense awakens to defeat the boss. After exiting the cave, an artifact attached to Asahi falls out, and Haruto sees visions that hint at the truth behind her existence. With the word that they conquered the dungeon becoming widespread, Haruto's party comes under attack by the Southern Cross Guild and then by the Brill Society Guild, with their leader Angelus asking Haruto to join, but Haruto refuses. The three enter the Tower of Heaven, a dungeon they struggled to clear when they were at low levels, and Satsuki gets immobilized by the dungeon boss, leading her to lose her trust in Haruto. After defeating the dungeon boss, they encounter Takanori and his guild, warning him not to get involved with Asahi anymore. Haruto refuses to back down and prepares to fight Takanori, but Satsuki intervenes. Takanori lets Haruto know that things will never be the same again, and as such, he refuses to join Subaru. Haruto goes looking for hints regarding Cleve Vivali and Nozomi Kusaka, but is unable to find any trace of them in the game. Takanori decides to merge Illuminati with Southern Cross and Brill Society to form the new guild Divine. Haruto's party gets separated when they encounter a sudden burst of fog, and Asahi gets kidnapped by the members of Divine, who betrayed Takanori in the process. Haruto escapes the skirmish with the help from Alicia, while Satsuki fights her way out. Haruto decides to rescue Asahi himself, and he heads to the place where Asahi is being held captive, preparing to fight a large number of Divine members. Satsuki remembers the time she looked down on herself for being too weak, but Asahi comforted her. She approaches Takanori, asking him to help Haruto rescue Asahi to protect her happiness. On the battlefield, Haruto takes down several members of Divine, but gets overwhelmed by the number of enemies, as Satsuki and Takanori arrive to assist him. The three encounter the Angelus holding Asahi captive. With Haruto and Takanori in trouble, Satsuki awakens her sense to defeat the guild members, leaving only Angelus and the Southern Cross leader, who Angelus turns into a monster. They are easily defeated and Asahi gets rescued. Through the prophet art, the party learns that Asahi is part of a failed experiment. Meanwhile, Cleve watches the action from a distance with Alicia, who is plotting something that requires the members of Subaru to awaken their senses. Haruto, Asahi, and Satsuki go out to sea on the pirate Alwita's ship, having been tipped off about a legendary sword somewhere underwater. Haruto locates it and recognizes it as the sword he wielded in Union, but it is guarded by the giant sea dragon Aegir. Struggling to fight underwater, Cleve arrives and helps the party retreat. Back in the real world, Takanori meets up with Haruto and Satsuki and tells them that a shady organization called Gnosis is plotting something, and he believes that they faked Asahi's death. They are also informed that Nozomi has returned to town. Back in the game, Haruto's party tries to retrieve the sword again, now aided by Cleave's power that allows them to move underwater. They defeat Aegir, but when Haruto retrieves the sword, Cleave betrays the party and stabs Haruto. Haruto wakes up in an alternate reality, created by Asahi's prophet art, where he wakes up from a 6-year coma after his character died instead of Asahi's. Alicia arrives to tell Haruto that senses can be used in the real world, and that Union was created by Gnosis as a training ground to test out the senses so that they can create the ultimate sense. After telling Asahi that this reality is not where he belongs, she sends him back to the moment before Cleave stabs him and blocks the attack. Knowing that Cleave would always remain loyal to a friend, Haruto realizes that Cleave is a fake. The fake Cleave reveals himself as Simon, a member of Gnosis, and merges with Aegir to attack the party. Awida arrives to assist the party and reveals himself to be the real Cleave. Together, they help Haruto retrieve the sword to defeat Aegir. The party gets another strange vision from the red stone fragment they picked up after defeating Aegir, where they learn that Alicia tried to lock her sense, but the red stone containing it shattered, and the party believes that the fragment is a piece of that stone. Haruto explains what he learned from Alicia about Gnosis and Union to the members of Subaru, and Cleave tells everyone that they need to find Nozomi and awaken her sense. Haruto and Satsuki meet up with Nozomi and are surprised by how much she has changed since they last met. They learn that Nozomi has become a fashion model and has quit playing video games since Asahi's death. Later, Satsuki confesses to Haruto of her affections for him and wants him to make a decision at the dance. That night before the ball inside the game, Haruto and Takanori go to Asahi's grave and have a fight arguing over who protects Asahi. Takanori makes up with Haruto and lets him dance with Asahi at the ball inside the game, while Takanori dances with Satsuki, who is rejected by Haruto. After recalling the time in elementary school, when Takanori helped her out, leading her to have feelings for him, Nozomi logs into Reunion and sees Takanori dancing with Satsuki at the ball, prompting her to break down. She gets greeted by 2 Gnosis agents, demanding that she joins their organization. Haruto, Satsuki, and Takanori visit Nozomi's house after hearing about her disappearance. Having figured out that she logged into Reunion when she disappeared, Takanori asks Cleave to trace her activity and determine her location in the game. The party heads to that location and gets attacked by her oversized familiars. After defeating the familiars, a brainwashed Nozomi appears, along with her kidnappers from Gnosis, Cerinthus and Marcian. The party attacks Cerinthus and Marcian, unable to land an attack, and Nozomi places a curse on Asahi, forcing the party to retreat. Haruto, Satsuki, and Takanori gather in the real world again, where Takanori figures out that Nozomi has a crush on him, and seeing him dance with Satsuki led to Gnosis taking advantage of her jealousy. The 3 then suddenly feel dizzy, as they learn that their perceptions have been altered by a sense. The Gnosis member thanks Subaru for becoming close friends and vanishes, prompting Haruto to quickly log back into Reunion. Asahi awakes from a nightmare while sleeping at the base as Haruto and his friends return to the game, and the base gets destroyed, forcing the party to evacuate. The party ventures into a dungeon that suddenly appeared, and they notice that Asahi's sense is malfunctioning. The party encounters Nozomi, Cerinthus, and Marcian in the dungeon, and Takanori decides to deal with Nozomi himself. As Nozomi attacks Takanori, he intentionally does not dodge her attacks in order to reach her. He apologizes for not acknowledging her feelings for him, and he embraces her to return Nozomi to normal. Meanwhile, Haruto gets shot by Asahi, who has been acting on her grudge towards him due to the influence of a sense. With Haruto lying on the ground after being shot by Asahi, the goddess inside Asahi begins to awaken as part of the plan for Cerinthus and Marcian to create their paradise. Amidst the chaos, Cerinthus attacks Cleave, but is saved by Alicia. Haruto recalls the time he promised Asahi to get stronger, and he regains consciousness with his sense powering up. Cerinthus and Marcian make a last-ditch attack, but Haruto's powered-up sense easily defeats them. After the battle, Nozomi makes a new sheath for Haruto's sword with her sense, and Alicia explains why there are 7 jewels on it, as Subaru is a cluster that appears to have 6 stars to some and 7 to others. The party logs out of the game, and Takanori comes over to pick up Nozomi and return her feelings. Sometime later, The party logs back in and goes on their first quest as the reunited guild, while the actions of Gnosis become public. In an unresolved cliffhanger, Alicia is revealed to be the 7th member of Subaru. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to let us know by leaving a like. Subscribe for more stories and check out other stories here. And if you enjoy the sound of my voice, feel free to support me in the links in the description below. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.